All right, we're about to dive into a real-life aviation mystery. Seriously, it starts with a simple, routine check and ends with a catastrophic engine failure right on the runway. We're going to piece together the clues, just like detectives, to figure out why one of the most basic pre-flight checks is truly a life or death investigation. So, picture this. You're a student pilot. You've done all your checks. Everything looks absolutely perfect. You're rolling down the runway, gaining speed, and just as the wheels are about to leave the ground, the engine dies. Complete silence. And this isn't some movie scene. This is pulled straight from a real NASA aviation safety report. And here is the absolute heart of our mystery. The pilots did the fuel sump, the standard check for water and gunk, and they found nothing. Zero. And yet, just moments later, their engine failed because of, you guessed it, contaminated fuel. How is that even possible? Well, that's the big question we're here to answer.
To solve this thing, we've got to start where every good investigation begins, by examining the evidence from the scene of the incident.
Okay, so the good news here is that this story has a safe ending. The instructor was on the ball, they aborted the takeoff, and they had just enough momentum to coast off the runway. So a total disaster was avoided, but the mystery was just getting started.
So the post-flight inspection finds a ton of water in the fuel system. A real smoking gun for the engine failure. But here's the part that makes no sense. The pilot's pre-flight sump showed perfectly clean fuel. It's like the water just appeared out of thin air. To figure out how this happened, we need to get to know our main suspect a little bit better: water.
Fuel contamination is basically anything in the fuel that has absolutely no business being there. And the most common and by far the most dangerous is just plain old water. It's this invisible enemy that can, quite literally, bring down an airplane.
The physics at play here are actually super simple. Think of salad dressing, right? The oil and the vinegar, they just don't mix. It's the exact same thing with aviation gas or avgas and water. Since water is denser, it sinks right to the bottom of the fuel tank. And guess where the fuel feed lines are? Yup, at the bottom. So the engine can end up trying to run on pure water instead of fuel.
So where does all this water come from? Well, it can sneak in a few different ways. It can actually form as condensation inside the tanks, just like dew or the grass in the morning. It can seep in through old, cracked fuel caps when it rains. Or worst case scenario, it was there from the very beginning, coming from a contaminated fuel truck.
Because this danger is so well known, pilots have a standard investigative procedure to find this hidden water before every single flight. Let's take a look at their detective kit.
So when a pilot sumps the fuel, they're not just taking a quick glance. They're actually running a full 5-point inspection, and they are searching for very distinct clues about what's really going on inside those tanks. The first and most common clue is, of course, water. Since it's heavier, it makes these really obvious clear bubbles, or sometimes it's a whole separate layer sitting right at the bottom of the sample cup. Finding that is an immediate stop everything red flag. The second clue is color. Now, different fuels are dyed specific colors for a really, really important reason. The most common piston fuel, 100 LL avgas, is always blue. Putting the wrong kind of fuel in an engine can be catastrophic. So if the color is wrong or cloudy, it means you've either got water or you've been misfueled. Both are terrible. Some of the other clues are a bit more subtle. Like if the drain is clogged and nothing comes out, that could mean there's debris floating around in the tank. And if the fuel is this unusually dark, almost Kool-Aid blue, it could be a sign of a slow leak that's letting the dye build up. You gotta have a trained eye. Okay, so armed with all this knowledge about how to find water, let's go back to our original mystery. The pilots did these checks, so what on earth did they miss? And let's be absolutely clear on this. The pilots followed their training to the letter. They took samples, they looked for water, they checked the color, and the fuel looked perfect. Bright blue and crystal clear. By all accounts, they did their job 100% correctly. And here it is. This is the solution to the entire puzzle. The sump drains are at the lowest point of the tank, but only when the aircraft is sitting level. This plane was parked on a steep, nose-down slope. All of that water, being heavier, had pooled at the very front of the tank, totally out of reach of the drains at the back. It was in the perfect hiding spot. And this wasn't just a little bit of condensation either. Turns out the plane had been sitting in that exact spot for 4 days. During a period of unusually heavy rain, all that water was likely seeping in and collecting in that hidden pocket at the front of the tank. So, you can see what happened next. After the pre-flight, they taxied to the runway. The second the aircraft leveled out, all that hidden water, whoosh, sloshed to the back of the tank, down into the fuel lines, and went straight into the engine at the worst possible moment, takeoff. So what's the final verdict here? Well, the case of the incline teaches us all a critical lesson that goes way beyond just following a checklist. The takeaways from this are crystal clear. Something has to be done on level ground, period. If your plane is on a slope, you have to move it, let everything settle for a bit, and then sump it all over again. And you never, ever stop at just one sample. You keep sumping until every single sample is nothing but perfectly clear, brightly colored fuel, every single time.
You see, looking into that little cup of fuel isn't just ticking a box. It's an active investigation. It's a pilot's last and best line of defense against an emergency that is absolutely 100% preventable.
This whole incident hinged on an invisible danger that was hiding in plain sight. It kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? What small, routine checks in our own lives are protecting us from disasters we never even see? And what invisible dangers might we be overlooking simply because we're looking at the problem from the wrong angle?